MasterChef is known for its fair share of embarrassing moments.
We cannot sweat in the food. Yes, chef.
But what happened with this contestant is the most humiliating of all. In Season 3, Tully had a disastrous performance in the kitchen, and that's a fact. If you think you can defend him, feel free to comment below, but I doubt you can. It wasn't just about making a decent meal, he was completely lost when it came to managing a station. And to make matters worse, he had been warned about it. See, the chaos he created was unbelievable. It was Tully's moment to shine, but just when it seemed like things were going smoothly, Chef Ramsay called him out.
Just step back.
And yeah, you can probably guess why.
I'm struggling to identify what the hell you're doing. I really am.
I mean, come on. Did he forget that hygiene is always a top priority? Chef Ramsay was definitely disappointed in him.
All the way down and all over the place. Look at the cupboards.
I don't.
And you best believe he wasn't done yet.
You'd been fired 6 months ago.
Yes, chef.
Seriously, if someone can't grasp such a basic concept, maybe they're in the wrong profession, you know? Poor Tully was extremely embarrassed, beyond words. The intense shame was written all over his face, and you could see it without even asking.
That is a disaster.
Judging by his expression, he was genuinely ashamed. Unfortunately, if his station looked bad, his dish was even worse.
And
it's served on a bed of raw flour, right?
I guess it just wasn't his day. The pizza was coated in raw flour, and his reaction was straight out of kitchen nightmares.
I mean, here's the thing. You work in a mess, you produce a mess.
And he wasn't wrong. If the circumstances had been different, he might have managed to create something better, something at least edible. Regardless, Chef Ramsay was genuinely worried about Tully's direction. It's clear that Ramsay truly cares about his contestants. Sure, Tully could be annoying, but he couldn't beat the next contestant, who was brimming with overconfidence. Well, I think Jenny from Season 2 messed up just as bad, if not worse. Things got so wild that the judges were pretty much at a loss for words. So, it was the elimination round in Episode 7, and the challenge? Pretty damn easy as far as MasterChef challenges go.
Elimination test is... desserts.
See? I told you, it was simple and straight. And if you thought that was easy, just wait till you hear the star of the theme.
Coffee.
That's right, coffee. With a challenge that's supposed to be a walk in the park like this one, you'd think the contestants would come through with something seriously good. But no, you couldn't be more wrong. So, what exactly did she whip up that was so horrible, you ask?
Is this supposed to look like that? What is that?
A tart infused with coffee? Huh. Okay, like, I get the concept. She was probably trying to channel some tiramisu vibes into it. But still, it sounds pretty odd if you ask me. And the dish's looks were pretty odd too. But hey, you know what they say, don't judge a book by its cover. But maybe you should in this case, because when the tart was cut open, you won't believe what happened.
Not cooked all the way through. I put it in too late.
So it's raw.
Not a great start now, was it? Before the judges even tasted the dish, Jo had already identified a flaw. And guess what? She didn't really do a great job at making a good excuse to save herself either.
It's totally raw, but the top's edible.
Well, the opposite of being cooked is raw, right? So
Yeah, I think that's what raw means. I mean, why bother trying to cover up such an obvious mistake? Doesn't make sense, does it? Honestly, I'm with Jo here.
all right, so it's raw.
After seeing the disaster of a dish, you can pretty much imagine what it must taste like, and if you can't, well, let me help you.
Ugh.
That summed it up. But let's face it, the ultimate verdict rests with Chef Ramsay. He's the true judge there, especially in this season, right after Graham. Chef Ramsay's response to the dish settled one thing. It had absolutely no redeeming qualities.
I mean, excuse me.
It was so bad, he didn't even swallow it. I'm pretty sure he regretted ever even putting it in his mouth. And what did he have to say about it? Nothing good, apparently.
It's an embarrassment for you and it's an embarrassment for this competition. 90 minutes, Jenny.
This is what made her situation even worse. How could you produce something so terrible when you had 90 minutes? You mean to say you had 90 minutes to complete the easiest challenge imaginable and still couldn't deliver? Naturally, Chef Ramsay's disappointment was understandable. But wait, he wasn't done with the dish. He wasn't going to let a disaster like this go without at least one cutting remark. And let me tell you, he really let Jenny have it. The insult he came up with? It's something you have to hear to believe.
And smash the plate on the way up here, because that is hideous.
One thing's certain, this moment will likely haunt her for years to come. Whether it's a bad attitude or poorly executed dishes, the contestants on MasterChef certainly know how to humiliate themselves. And this next contestant was no different.
This is a joke. I don't know what to say.
Next up, let me introduce you to Brian O'Brien, twice named, but maybe naming his dish thrice wasn't the best idea. Anyway, Ramsay and Tony couldn't help but exchange glances when the so-called Filet O'Brien was put in front of them.
Describe the dish, please.
This is the Filet O'Brien.
But in spite of that, Brian looked pretty proud of his eponymous filet. But let me tell you, that pride was definitely misplaced. Because instead of being impressed, Tony couldn't resist taking a jab at Brian over it.
Catapulted yourself with the great cooks of the world.
The sarcasm was real. Ramsay, meanwhile, found the whole situation absolutely hilarious.
Filet O'Brien.
My name is Brian O'Brien.
You've named it after yourself.
But could the dish match up to his own name? Considering Brian was relatively unknown, living up to his name probably wasn't going to work in his favor. Anyway, when a situation reminiscent of Hell's Kitchen finds its way into MasterChef, it's only a matter of time before things get heated. And that's precisely what unfolded in this episode of Season 8, with a task to feed a massive number of guests. Similarities to other intense situations were certainly evident. Before long, Ramsay noticed a bowl filled exclusively with center slices, perplexed by what had happened to the rest. And Jason sent him over the edge.
We just wanted to have a nicer presentation, so we chose the uniform cuts that are in the middle.
Ramsay couldn't believe it. The dude had butchered the most expensive meat in the country, beyond recognition for that? Yeah, Ramsay got real pissed real quick.
Good.
But you can't just trash that. It's not a chuck steak.
So the contestants hurried to correct the mistake before time ran out. Lesson learned, never mishandle expensive ingredients. Take this, and remember what happened with those scallops by Taven in Hell's Kitchen as a cautionary tale. Now, let's shift to a more coherent topic. Here it is. Let's discuss Audrey's audition. She confidently presented her secret weapon... cakes? Yes, cakes, but not just any cakes. She wanted to make the judges... eat themselves. I mean, I'm not even sure if this is real at this point.
Wow. That is dope.
But fortunately for Audrey, all she needed was an opening to get the judges' attention. And she definitely accomplished that.
Look at Joe, he looks like a granddad.
And that wasn't the only thing she managed to accomplish.
Is Joe smiling or not?
I actually found one picture on the internet of you smiling.
However, while the judges found it amusing, they were also quite puzzled, as those caricatures turned out to be more frightening than appetizing. It didn't help that they completely fell apart when inserted into the cakes.
And you need a bigger base for Graham. Pick
Come
me
eat
up.
some cake!
Despite the unsettling caricatures, ruined cakes, and a lot of confusion, Audrey's creation turned out to be surprisingly impressive.
They're caricatures. They're not supposed to be exact.
Yeah, I was sure she was done for when her cake fell apart, but she ended up winning an apron. And right after that, the narrator said the funniest thing I've ever heard him say. For the first time.
And for the very first time, bites his own head off.
0 notes. But if you thought Audrey's attempt to impress the judges was ridiculous, wait till you hear about this next one. It'll make those unsettling caricatures seem totally ordinary. So, back at the auditions, as I mentioned, where all the craziest things tend to occur, a husband and wife duo found themselves in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Now, this guy was also eager to catch the judges' attention, and you wouldn't believe the extremes he was willing to go to achieve it.
This is my special treat. I have been looking forward to serving this for you guys for a while.
At the end of this chaos, would it surprise you to learn that the guy earned an apron and eventually won the entire season? Well, it should, because that didn't happen. Not even close. Instead, the judges sent the two packing. But hey, at least one of them found the whole thing amusing.
Gordon Ramsay ate sushi off of me.
Well, if there's ever been a conversation starter. Honestly, this audition made me question just how much some people were willing to do for their 15 minutes of fame. And I'm genuinely surprised they even entertained the two. You should understand that in MasterChef, there's no tolerance for ignorance.
Your plate with your cloth. Yes, chef. Now, will you please stop?
Like, none at all.
We're out of chicken.
What?
We're out of chicken.
And why do I say this? Let me take you to this specific episode from Season 4, where MasterChef took an unforeseen twist.
You had the best dishes in the last elimination, so you two are the team captains.
Chef Ramsay invited two special guests to dine that evening. Aaron, described as a flavor scientist, and his food-loving fiancée, Anya, who were preparing to marry the following day. But wait, Chef Ramsay had more surprises in store. What he revealed next was even more astonishing.
And surprise, you will be cooking the food at the reception.
Yes, we have another MasterChef catered wedding reception on our hands, and we all know what that entails. The stakes were higher than ever. The contestants couldn't believe their luck.
This is an important gig. Why the are they trusting us?
With less than 24 hours until the reception, the home cooks scrambled to prepare for the monumental task ahead. But then, the bride, Anya, decided to raise the stakes even further.
No peanuts, no beets, no radishes.
Anya presented a lengthy list of ingredients that were strictly forbidden for use in any of the dishes. And the list seemed endless. She just kept going and going and going.
No dill, no cilantro, no olives.
I mean, Anya managed to eliminate some of the most commonly used ingredients in under a minute. Even Chef Ramsay was taken aback by the sudden imposition of such a comprehensive list.
We making lettuce wraps and water for his wedding.
With time running out and the pressure building, the contestants faced one of their toughest challenges yet, as they hurried to create a memorable and delicious menu for Aaron and Anya's wedding reception. As part of the challenge, the home cooks were given the task of preparing 2 spectacular entrees, one meat-based and one vegetarian. Well, that certainly brought smiles to everyone's faces, right? However, upon arriving at the venue, the contestants encountered yet another surprise. Guys, we've had our fill of surprises by now. Anyway, they would be serving over 100 guests, including 15 vegetarians. Joe was clear about the expectations from the home cooks.
Make sure that there is something delicious to eat for every single guest.
Anyway, Natasha and James assumed roles as team captains for the first time. James, who had won the crab challenge, had the first choice and selected Lynn, a consistently strong contender.
But it's also exponentially puts the weight on my shoulders every time I'm picked first.
Lynn's skill in the kitchen, paired with his amiable personality, made him a valuable asset to James's team, which also featured Jesse, Johnny, Bree, and Luca. Meanwhile, Natasha partnered with Eddie as her co-captain and finalized her team with Jordan, Bethy, Savannah, and Chrissy. However, in a twist typical of the season, the producers introduced a psychological twist, giving each team captain the opportunity to exempt one member from the challenge. And guess who Natasha decided to exclude from participating?
Chrissy, you're not going to be playing with us.
My feet, thank you.
Chrissy was thrilled to be chosen. She earned the benefit of advancing to the top 11. Naturally, she welcomed the free pass. Meanwhile, James surprisingly selected Bree, the only vegetarian among them. And unlike Chrissy, Bree was pissed.
Would you get rid of someone who's such a strong vegetarian?
And yeah, when you're dealing with vegetarians, having one on hand as a consultant might not be a bad idea. Setting that aside, the blue team, initially packed with talented chefs, surged ahead while the red team struggled to keep up. However, the situation quickly reversed as the blue team began to falter.
Not send this! Oh my god. Look! Dirty plates!
Chef Ramsay grew increasingly frustrated as the delay persisted, with 2 tables eagerly anticipating the blue team's entrees. The pressure was mounting, and Chef Ramsay was displeased with the slow progress. Eventually, the blue team picked up their pace and their lamb dish was on its way to the dining room. However, Lynn, feeling the imminent risk of losing the first team challenge, began to falter under the pressure. Just when Lynn thought things couldn't deteriorate further, Chef Ramsay stepped in, stopping him in his tracks with a stern admonishment.
You're sweating, look at me, on the food, okay, young man?
In a bold move, Chef Ramsay made the decision to have the team do this instead.
No way, you can't sweat in the food.
Hygiene is non-negotiable in the kitchen, and Ramsay wasn't about to compromise on that. But with time running out, the blue team had to regroup and tackle the challenge head-on with no room for error or messes. When things seemed like they couldn't get any crazier, Joe came in as a bearer of bad news for Ramsay.
Table 2, no blue plates. Table 3, no blue plates.
The blue team's diners had absolutely no food on their tables. Guests even threatened to bail, but Chef Ramsay had enough and wasn't holding back anymore.
You're wiping the forehead again, and you're wiping the plates.
As the blue team tried pivoting and scrambled to keep up with orders, something gross happened.
I just watched you wipe your plate with your cloth.
Yes, chef.
Now, will you please stop?
I mean, what was he thinking? At that point, Chef Ramsay had reached his limit.
The lamb is cold. The lamb is cold. Get it back.
Sadly, by the time they tried to recover, it was already too late. The red team had already locked up the win. I feel like there's a lesson here, but I'm not really sure what. Ah well, sucks to suck, blue team. Anyway, now I want to spotlight episode 10 of season 9, when 2 pairs of super friendly contestants were tasked with teaming up for a new challenge.
You will be working in pairs.
However, instead of becoming the dream team, they ended up becoming each other's worst enemies. The first challenge was an ingredients test, where the judges provided the teams with 5 ingredients: a whole chicken, carrots, onion, bacon, and cornmeal. The teams had to determine what to make with these ingredients, and the judges offered them a couple of examples. After the teams were formed, there was an uneven number of contestants, leaving Ralph without a partner. However, this turned out to be beneficial for him, as he was rewarded by the judges with a partnership with Joe Bastianic himself. This major advantage not only kept Ralph safe from elimination, but also set the stage for an interesting twist in the competition. Joe may not be a chef, but he was going to be damned if Ralph dragged his reputation into the dirt. That aside, onto the main event. Taylor and Ashley were a problematic pairing right from the start because both were too nice to take the lead.
I'm happy to work with Taylor.
I mean, we can also do one of the onions. But if we...
Despite brainstorming and deciding on their dish with the given ingredients, Ramsay started worry.
I think personally they're too friendly. They might not want to say that tough thing to one another.
You see, being friends could potentially hinder their ability to call each other out on mistakes. Chef Ramsay feared they might struggle to hold each other accountable in a competition setting. But in the end, it's all part of the challenge, and only time would tell how long their friendship could withstand the pressure of it. And given they made it to today's list, it wasn't long.
It looks terrible. That's my bad. I'm sorry.
When Chef Ramsay went over to check on Ashley and Taylor, he wasn't pleased with their dish.
Where you brulee the onion and then you peel.
That's normally in a cioppini or...
He straight up called it ridiculous and asked Ashley what the hell she was thinking.
Is sure, or was it for flavor?
I've never done it before, Chef. I wanted to taste it first.
And Ashley's response? Apparently she was just trying out new stuff. Seriously, girl? This is a competition, not an experiment. Chef Ramsay had to knock some sense into her and remind her of the stakes of the competition. But just then, something caught Chef Ramsay's eye, something that left him in utter shock. Both Ashley and Taylor were like deer in headlights, completely frozen. Finally, Ashley admitted it was her fault, but that wasn't going to change the fact that pissed.
You're two girls I believed in. I've seen better performances than Junior MasterChef with 8-year-olds.
He let them know how ridiculous what they were doing was, and that was the moment when tension started to rise between them.
Why did you slice it that way?
It was a pivotal moment in their partnership, and the pressure of the competition was clearly taking its toll on it. You could see that Chef Ramsay was just so disappointed in both of them. Anyway, the time soon came to judge the dishes.
Definitely not on the same page, and it is completely coming through on this plate.
Ashley and Taylor had cooked pan-seared chicken breast with sauteed carrots, bacon, and cornbread, and it looked dismal. There was barely anything on the plate, so the judges didn't even taste it because they had to know what went wrong.
She wanted a carrot puree at the bottom of the plate.
That was, we both said a carrot puree, and I said, can you nail that? And you said, yeah.
The partnership had never looked anything but strong. At least, leading up to this competition. But as it turns out, it was weak beyond belief. Then they started to blame each other for what went wrong, and there weren't any real carrots on the plate because they argued over the carrot puree.
Watching both of you work is like chewing gum with a mouthful of nuts.
It was a messy situation, and their inability to work together ultimately cost them so much. But did their dish taste good? Well...
Seriously? The cornbread is dry, it's crumbly.
Unfortunately, the blame game didn't stop there.
I started to cut it, and then Ashley was like, don't cut it that way.
Ashley had failed to execute them properly. She also wouldn't take the blame for them because she said it had been Taylor's idea to do them in the first place and that she was doing something else entirely. In the end, neither of them chose to take responsibility. The real truth of the matter was that they both argued over what to do with the carrots and about how to cut the chicken. But sadly, they never settled on anything. The two of them were dysfunctional at best and never had it in them to win the challenge as a team. Moreover, they were both super embarrassed for letting down their mentor, Gordon Ramsay, who had handpicked them expecting to see great teamwork. And after the disappointing performance, Chef Ramsay didn't take it well either.
But right now, with these two guys standing, I look the biggest idiot in this kitchen.
Well, I guess it just wasn't their day. Max stepped up, armed with desserts that seemed to be designed to embarrass the living daylights out of himself. Chef Ramsay took the first bite, and guess how he reacted?
Damn.
Yup, he went silent. Oh man, it was one of those moments where you could almost feel the tension through the screen. Instead of just giving his verdict right away, Chef Ramsay threw a curveball at Max and asked him to taste it. And what did Max do?
It's like I've just gone to the doctors for a skin graft on my butt and stuck it in caramel. That is a horrible, weird texture.
He stood there, beaming with confidence. He was smiling as if he had just served up a dessert fit for a king. But hold on, Chef Ramsay wasn't letting him off the hook that easy. He laid down the brutal truth about how embarrassing his dessert was at this level of the competition. You'd think Max would be shrinking into a puddle of shame, right? Nope, he was grinning from ear to ear for some reason. Next, it was time for Graham to take a bite, and how do you think he reacted? Yeah, his face spoke a lot more than his words. He just could not come to terms with what he had just eaten. And then, he went on to deliver a final blow. He called out the dish for its horrible texture and basically warned him that he should be seriously worried.
You know, the fact that it's an elimination test, it's serious.
I mean, the situation was so embarrassing that awkward doesn't even begin to cover it. Anyway, time to cut to the chase. Chef Ramsay didn't hold back, stating that Jenny's dish was a serious contender for being the worst dish of the night, but guess what? 2 others were even worse, so luckily she was in the clear. This time. Now, when it came to Alvin, Chef Ramsay delivered the gut punch. His dish took the crown for being the worst of the night, and it was time for him to say goodbye. Ouch. But hey, at least Alvin got a parting note about being courageous, but needing to nail the basics before moving forward. And on the bright side, look at who survived to cook another day.
You? Back on your station. Thank you, Chef.
So today, you saw the most humiliating moments ever in MasterChef history. Which incident you found most overwhelming, make sure to let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And if you want to see something crazier, make sure to check out this next video right here, it's even better.